Welcome to the Midlife Gaming Podcast. Steve, how is it going?
Going great. Happy Monday, brother.
Happy Monday. We just wrapped up, I guess you could call it week one of E3 and Summer Games situation. Just initial impressions. How'd you feel about it?
E3 was pretty boring this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like there were some solid points in there, but overall there was no... I don't know, nothing really exciting, except for a couple of game announcements. Normally there's at least some type of hardware tease or something. So, I don't know, but today for everybody who's watching, thank you for showing up. We're going to go through some of the announcements that have been made in previous ones. And hold on, I'm being told your volume is low. Give me a test, Steve.
Mic check, mic check.
All right, cool. That's good enough. So we're going to go ahead and step through some of the shows that have happened. Not all of them, because not all of them really gave anything worth paying attention to at this point. We'll probably find out some of those a little bit later when, another like tucked away title makes its Twitch stream debut, and then it just becomes the next big hit, like Among Us was. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me pull up my stuffs. Doop. All right, so first up, we had the Summer Game Fest Day 1. So right off the bat, and I'm just going to play it in the background, just have it there for us. Right off the bat, they opened it up with a announcement from Gearbox, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. That's coming in early 2022. How do you feel about that?
No feelings, because I do not care.
You played Borderlands 2 with Fish and I, right?
Yeah, to be honest, like I feel like I've outgrown the Borderlands humor, and without the humor, I think that the gameplay is just mediocre, to be honest. Like, it is a relic of the time, in my opinion. Like, it definitely was, in the time that it came out, the early 2000s or late 2000s, whatever it was something exciting and new. You had this RNG system, these thousands of weapons, this co-op multiplayer. But since then, so many other companies have come and done that so much better. And then the only thing that I feel like Borderlands still has about it is that kind of that DNA or the identity of being this quirky, humorous type of thing. And honestly, the humor just isn't that funny to me anymore. I tried playing the Telltale's pre-Borderlands game. I can't remember what the name of it was, but
Or just Tales from Borderlands.
Yeah, like going through that, even it was a chore. And then I did go back and play Borderlands 2 not that long ago. Maybe it was last year or the year before last. Downloaded a whole bunch of mods and all that kind of stuff to make it cool and everything. And it was cool to go through it again for nostalgia purposes. But like so many of the jokes, I was like, man, this humor is just, it's not for me.
Some of it is a tad dated. I will say that I feel like Borderlands 2 humor was more general purpose. Same with the pre-sequel that came out after that. But Borderlands 3 humor just was like, I don't know. It was pretty cold, I guess, is a certain way of putting it. The reason why I personally am excited for Wonderlands, though, is because it stars Tiny Tina, who is probably one of my favorite characters, right next to like Torg from Borderlands 2, and it's based around the Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep DLC, which had a lot of those good humorous moments from the Borderlands 2 series that it was known for, but it was more fantasy driven, and it was masking a really troubling story for Tina as well. Like it added a ton of depth to a lot of the characters there. And honestly, I think the last 2 or 3 times that I've gone back to play Borderlands 2 for like nostalgia purposes, I just burn right through the storyline, forget about the first 3 DLCs, and skip right to this one because it has the best storyline. It's, in my opinion, the DLC that this is representing is indicative of what good not exponent expansion content should be. It had a ton of hours into it. It was a decent price, especially for the time. I think Gearbox is like the first example of where I heard the term season pass. So like they I feel like they did it well. I hope that this is a departure from the Borderlands 3 dryness, because I mean the bad guys, the Calypso twins from Borderlands 3 just were bleh. I mean, you hated them, but not because they were a good villain character. You hated them because they're obnoxious. The entire game, they're just this obnoxious source that you're just like, let me get through it, or let me just turn this game off. It wasn't really there. So thanks for showing up, Dr. Pretender. Appreciate you being here. So that's all I have to say about Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I will be cautiously optimistic about this one and hope that they do it justice. If not, that it might be strike 2 on the Gearbox situation. For some people, strike 3, because they are really holding out that Aliens. What was that? Alien Colonial something that Gearbox did that got a ton of flack. Yeah, I mean, people still aren't forgiving of that one. In fact, I think some of the first tweets whenever this game's specific Twitter page came out, some of the first comments on there were about, where's my Aliens Colonial Marines refund? Hey, what's going on, aka Source or Sarus? So next up was the Death Stranding director's cut. I did not play this game, but you did. So what are your expectations from this director's cut?
To be honest, I'm not going to play it because it's PS5 exclusive. I'm not going to. I don't even have a PS5 yet. Until I can walk in the store and walk out with one, I'm not even going through that whole hassle of it. Because I'm not going to use it that much. It's only going to be for exclusives. But I bought Death Stranding on PC. I went through the experience. I had the full story. So I mean, it's just I guess for people who are diehard Kojima fans, maybe it's worth them to go through another run. But for me, like once I finished that game, I didn't really see a purpose to go back to it. So I'm sure this is exciting for some people, but not for I.
True. Did you see the actual like reveal trailer where they were basically
Yeah,
ripping on Metal Gear Solid?
yeah, I saw it and I get it. Like, I mean, it's Kojima. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, like he owns the company, so all the marketing is directly what he wants to do. So if that's what he wanted it for a reason. I know he's still got probably some animosity towards Konami and everything, but I was a little surprised just that he was kind of taking a little bit of a piss on the in the Metal Gear series, considering that is still his baby, But I honestly thought there was a world in where he would come back to that at some point. Like that would actually excite me, if, in another alternate universe where it wasn't, some rehashed
that's
stuff.
kind of what I thought was happening whenever it first
Yeah.
opened up to that floor. I was like, "Oh, this has very Metal Gear Solid vibes," and I was like, "Oh, wait, is he
Yeah.
teaming back up with Konami for something?" And then it
Yeah.
was just pissing on the grave, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of Death Stranding does have some Motor Gear type of mechanics in it, in terms of like the free open world, doing exactly what you want and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, again, this is one where I think it's more for like if I think this is more exciting for people who A, they're just huge Kojima fans, or B, like, hey, I didn't play it at first, but now, the PS5, I'm looking for something to play on it. This looks like it'd be a technical masterpiece, a
Mm-hmm.
good way to kind of push the power of the system to its limits. So for that purpose, I think it's cool. But yeah, it's one of those games without spoiling it. It's one of those things where like when it ends, there isn't like it does have that it doesn't have a definitive ending like, oh man, this is the end of it. Like, some games you
Right.
beat them and then they throw you back into the open world, but it's like the mission right before that is where you're stuck on. And this, like, you literally do finish it. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how they weave that into it, but it wasn't a game that left itself open for a sequel. So I would think that this is kind of just like, hey, here's some extra stuff that we kind of cut. We're finishing up now, putting it in there. Like it'll probably add to it. And that's why I say it feels like it'd be something where you do need to go through another playthrough. And that it wasn't a short game. It was, I can pull my Steam up. I want to say it was at least like 50, 60 hours for that
Oof.
game. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
that's a long
I,
narrative.
Yeah, and by the end of it, man, like I actually enjoyed the game, but it was one of those things that by the end I really was like, man, when will this end? Like I wanted the end. That's how I felt. Like because the gameplay does get repetitive. Like the story is cool and the story is what kind of pulls you through it. Like, okay, I'll keep going. But the gameplay itself did get incredibly repetitive by the end. So
Do you think there's any type of mechanic shift they can do in this director's cut to make that a little bit better?
I don't
No.
honestly like
Fast travel.
I
Defeat the
I
whole
mean, it had
purpose.
fast travel. Had fast travel, had, vehicles. It had a lot of quality of life stuff in it. That wasn't the problem. The problem was, and I think this is a Kojima thing, like when people complain about the cutscenes in Metal Gear and all that, he's so story focused that he has all these narrative beats that he wants to hit.
Hmm.
And a video game isn't always the best for that because a video game has to have like the perfect balance, or it should have the perfect balance of gameplay and story to where neither of those run out before the other. Like the gameplay doesn't get stale before the story runs out, and the story doesn't run out before the gameplay gets stale. Like and what happens with him is he has so much story, but the gameplay, like Metal Gear, I'll give a pass. Like Metal Gear 5 was a completely solid game. Like I didn't get bored at any point because of the kind of the complexity of like tackling the missions and stuff like that. But with this, it was kind of like Red Dead 2. By a certain point, you're like, okay, I get it. The story's great, but I still have,
Right.
for me to get to the story, I have to get through these same mission types and all this kind of stuff all over again. And yeah, so yep, that's my thoughts on that.
Would you
On that story.
recommend someone who has not played the game?
Um, Depends on the person, honestly. Like, I wouldn't recommend like a bad fish play this because I know
Right.
he wouldn't enjoy it. I could recommend you play it, maybe for the technical piece of it. Like, you'd probably be impressed enough by
Hmm.
that. And there's the story itself is actually pretty interesting. But even you, I would probably be like, maybe
Maybe not.
50-50. Like, yeah, it really it's a niche audience, man. Like I can't even say just Kojima fans because some Kojima fans are Kojima fans because of like how Metal Gear was, but this game is completely different. Like there's combat, but it's so limited. Like you literally are a UPS delivery man for 90% of the game. Like it's pick up these packages, take them to this location. It's all that kind of stuff. Like everything is a delivery mission for the most part.
Right.
So
Seems kind of like a weird concept whenever you pay attention to all the actors
yeah.
and acting power that was put into it.
Yeah, and I mean it works. Like it does work with the narrative. Like it all makes sense without spoiling. Like it makes sense for why you're doing this. You're reconnecting the world, all that kind of stuff. Like there's some cool things they do. With like the multiplayer isn't like you and somebody else occupying the world. It's oh man. So you think about this. You're a delivery person. You're connecting the world again. You
Right.
know, sometimes you're going over this rough terrain. Okay, cool. Archie's come through this area already, and he already dealt with the rough terrain. But what he's done is he's used his resources to build a bridge now. And now, any other players that come through there, they don't have to go through the same, hassle of climbing over XYZ. Now your bridge is there, and they can use it. So that's kind of the way that they did the multiplayer. That's the whole
Oh,
thing. If
okay.
you remember, what was it called, like shards or thread? I can't remember what it
Right.
was, but that was their whole interconnectivity is like the multiplayer is you are all forming this world and making the world better for each other, and like they did a great job with that. It isn't an exciting game. Like the story is great, it really does. Like the story, I loved it. And I think he's really honed his style a lot too. Since like I would say the worst example of Kojima that a lot of people throw out there is the Metal Gear 4 from the
Mm,
PS3. That was the one with like every 10 minutes there was a cutscene. Like he really
right.
has learned his lessons since those days. There's a lot of meaty cutscenes, but there's also a lot of content in between those. So, but would I recommend this? It's hard. I would have to talk to a person and really kind of get to know them and understand because I can't. You really can't make a blanket
Right.
recommendation for it. I couldn't even write a Steam review for this because it's one of those things where it really depends on the person. Like, are you the kind of person that can just take something in and enjoy it for what it is? Like, oh, I'm impressed by this production, or is it something where you really need to feel like you did something grand by the end of the game, like you experienced something, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like a unique title. I think that's probably the reason why I didn't pick it up because I was like, let me feel this one out before dropping
Yeah.
full price on it. All right. Well, next
It's
up
hard
was
to.
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna say it's hard to call it a game. It really is.
Yeah. So next up on the Summer Game Fest list was Among Us Update Roadmap. So the hit title from 2020 that I think actually got released in 2018, but no one saw it. until we were all locked down. Got a update roadmap where they announced a new mode called hide and seek, some new roles like sheriff and scientist, and then they gave like a 3x3 pixel reveal of a new map. Later, though, outside of Summer Game Fest, during Xbox's show, they also announced that in June 15th, there's going to be a 15-player lobby, as well as it's going to be, what was the other thing? I don't remember what the other thing was. It was very minute, but basically it's also re-announcing that it's still a Game Pass title. So really, it's just free game for anyone that wants to play it if you're a part of the Game Pass situation. Did you play too much Among Us? No.
Not really. I mean, I played with you guys. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only time I've ever played that game is with you guys, like our little midlife gaming crew.
Yep.
I can't remember another time I ever played it. I honestly like. It's one of those things where it's only fun with friends. Like, if it wasn't for you guys, I would never. In fact, it's not even installed on my PC anymore because we stopped playing it. So.
Yeah, I had played it with a couple of different friend groups, and I had one friend group that was really about it for a while. So I played with them a lot, and it was a good time because you really kind of bank on your understanding of your friends. I tried playing it with just like randos a couple times, and just I mean, it was fun, as much fun as it could be when you're just typing away for half an hour because nobody uses well, I guess the game doesn't natively support voice chat, so that was also another problem. But yeah, I mean, it's getting an update. It saw a lot of love last year, so no surprise that they're sticking around. Back for Blood was another one where the pre-order beta is coming out on August 5th, and the release is on August 12th. We also learned in the Xbox show that it's going to be day one available on Game Pass as well. So Back for Blood is kind of like the love child of Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Yeah, I agree, Source. I played it through. So he said that if Among Us wasn't for free, I would never have played it. Don't like games where people quarrel with each other. See, that was part of the reason why it was best played with friends, because you were all just kind of like play fighting around. When you're playing with randos, it all it took was one person to take it way too seriously, and the whole game is ruined. It's like, all right, enough of this. I'm out, bouncing. It was a good time amongst friends, though. So Back for Blood was also kind of revealed, and I'd never played the Left 4... Well, I take that back. I played Left 4 Dead, the first one, a couple times. I never played the second one, though. Were you really big in the Left 4 Dead? I know Tom the Greek in chat is all about this Back for Blood.
Yeah, we just had bad luck today, man. There's like a string of games that I'm not a fan of, and Left 4 Dead is another one. Like, it's another one of those things where I think for the time, like,
Yes,
absolutely great.
absolutely.
But my brother still plays it, and every time I see him playing it on Steam, I'm kind of in shock. I'm like, what in the hell could you still be getting out of this game so many years later? Like, I get that they do the different DLC maps, and like that's a big part of it is the community maps and stuff like that. But in terms of the gameplay, it hasn't evolved at all. Like in those years, like they add new weapons, cool, but the mechanics are all you, three other people, horde of zombies, and like the horde of zombies thing is just like that as a gameplay mode is just it's brain dead to me. It's like okay, it's repetitive. It's
Right.
like I'm all for something like we'll probably talk about later, like extraction, where you
Mhm.
you kind of have objectives as you go through it. And I'm yeah, Left 4 Dead, Back for Blood, they have these objectives like oh get to this fence and power on this generator but it all ends up being stand in this area for 2 to 3 minutes while you're being attacked. Like
Right.
it's mindless, it's brain dead stuff to me. So no, I I
I
hope
think
this
this
game
is the
comes
one
and goes.
where they also revealed that it has a 4v1 type situation where someone can be like a zombie master or something like that. I don't know what the actual title for it was, but basically, someone on the bad side, the zombie side. Does that
Hmm.
change it any for you? Because I know
I
you're
mean,
about those types of games.
if we had a group probably doing it, I mean, I could try it out myself and see like if I enjoyed it as a solo
Hmm.
player. Like we were talking earlier about Resistance, which I did kind of enjoy as a solo player, but I would have to see it. Honestly, I don't think it would appeal to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just it. it seems like it will always still be a horde mode type thing, and they only like Gears of War, the was that 5, the most recent one, like they had a
Yes.
pretty cool horde mode, but for the most part I don't enjoy them. Like they just
See, the
again, it's
only
like that brain dead stuff. It's just I hate sitting and playing like the same repetitive type thing over and over for hours, so that's why I can't really get into something like that.
yeah, so the only game that I really kind of enjoyed the horde mode in was Halo 3 ODST, when it was I think they were like fire strikes or something like that, where you had to like survive multiple rounds against, Covenant forces. But that I felt was it was drastically different than like zombie horde type of game, where it's just, the same kind of dumb AI. Maybe a couple of different AIs show up, but ultimately it's still this. You're still fighting zombies or whatever. To where in ODST, it every character had its own AI build out. They operated as a unit. There was some intelligence behind it and everything. So that's probably the only one that I really thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, of course, who hasn't played Black Ops Zombies before? But I don't know. That one was more because it was with friends, so I was playing that one. I had fun with the most recent, not the most recent, the last Zombies. That was kind of okay because they had a storyline, but I mean, it's nothing I would play on my own at all. So that was it for Back for Blood. They didn't really announce a ton of information. There was some gameplay and everything where we learned about the whole there's going to be someone that can play as the bad guy and all that. But the show really ended off on a note with Elden Ring, which has a date of January 21st, 2022. So next year. You don't play Souls type games, do you? No. See, I've played a couple of them. My buddy Justin, he loves them, and he's gotten me to play a couple of them, and I enjoy them as well. I used to think that they were these games that were just needlessly hard for dumb purposes, and there was really no reason for it to be that hard. But then as I started to play them, it really turns out to be it's not the games aren't hard. You just have to have patience and you have to understand your enemies. So it's definitely one of those games that I can understand why some people don't like Dark Souls type games, which Elden Ring, for anyone that doesn't know, is from Software. The company is called From Software, who is responsible for the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games. And this one was made in partnership with George R.R. Martin from the Game of Thrones series. And this one is supposed to be more of a open world, but it absolutely just looks like a slightly more open world Dark Souls 4. So I don't know. I'll probably wait to see what my buddy Justin says of it, and that will probably make my decision for me.
Yeah, and
I
one
don't
thing I
I don't
will
think I
say,
would do
so
it on my own though.
and it's not necessarily I don't like the style of game. Like you can make an argument that Jedi Fallen Order was a Souls type
That'd
game.
be an easy
Uh,
argument.
yeah, and Sakura, I enjoyed that as well.
Hmm.
What I don't like about the Souls and Demon Souls and Elden Ring is more of the genre. I'm not a big fan of the fantasy stuff. Like,
Hmm.
which is again why I can play Sakura. It was real world based, and then Jedi Fallen Order, sci-fi based.
Right.
Love those. It's just the fantasy genre I'm not a fan of.
Yep.
Except
Understandable.
Dragon Age. I'll give them a go when they come out. And Fable. Those are probably the only two games I make exceptions for
We
when
did
it
get a
comes to
tease for Fable, but it wasn't an actual tease. It was just like, hey, we're still working on it. All right, bye.
games.
All right, so that was really the key things that came out of the entire hour and a half, I feel like, was this Summer Game Fest. So what how do you feel about Summer Game Fest as a whole? Was it worth it? Worth your time? Or should you just go watch someone on Twitch tell you about it like we do?
I mean, I've I've stopped watching these things live. Like I'll check in here and there. Like I might have it up on a second screen. I mean, it's cool. Like I like Jeff Keighley. I like what he does. I like that maybe this year itself might not be that exciting, which I think is kind of a is an aftermath of COVID. Still, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
companies are still kind of getting things together from that. But I still think he has a good platform, and he got a couple of exclusives, right? So
Oh yeah, he got a couple out there.
yeah, so
Um,
it's
so
okay.
he did well. I feel like it, given the circumstances, I think he did a pretty good job. All right, so then the next show up that we're going to talk about was Ubisoft Forward, which I felt like had turned into the Tom Clancy's Game Developer Center for a while, because they've already announced Extraction before this, but they really went in depth with it. Did you see the? Well, yeah, of course you saw the video. You sent it to me. So, what were some of your thoughts? Because I thought it had a ton of GTFO vibes. For those who don't know, go look it up on YouTube. That game is intense. But it felt like a very like brighter version of it. Like there wasn't nearly as much destruction and like dark feeling about Rainbow Six Extraction as I would have thought it needed, given the narrative that they're telling.
Yeah, I think we didn't get to see a lot. Like, if I'm correct, I think all the gameplay came from one level. Like, it was three of the
Yes.
stages of it, but it was all one level. So I'm sure they're gonna have a variety of that. To be honest, like that's probably if I had to pick the thing I'm probably most excited about seeing out of E3, that would probably I don't know if it's my favorite after we get done with everything that we just saw, but it's definitely up there. What I love about it was that you can obviously see it still has that Rainbow Six Siege DNA, like in terms of setting up the reinforcing the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that they were talking about strategic type of gameplay, like oh, there's a certain scene in there. They're like, hey, we're gonna barricade these up that way we can funnel all of the enemies in through this one hole, like
Right.
that kind of stuff. I love because it's not, we were talking to a couple moments ago about like horde mode shit. I hate it because it's always the same thing. Is get in a corner, sit back,
Right.
reserve your big weapons for the big boss that comes through. Like it gets repetitive. But here it's like, oh, you actually have some strategy that you can
You
employ
want
to
to be
get through these
tactical
levels.
about it.
Yeah, and GTFO I have played maybe once. There was a VR mode, so I got in there one time and played it. But what I love about that too was again is like strategy, kind of like a little bit of Destiny Raidish. Like, oh, we've got these puzzles that we've got to, maybe you have to go get this thing, or hey, somebody's got to activate this. Like I like that objective type co-op
Right.
gameplay. So what I think is going to make this super successful is they have GTFO that's already out there. They can take a lot of examples from. They have this awesome system for Rainbow Six Siege already that is polished, rarely has any issues that goes on with it. They already have a successful run at creating multiplayer
Mm-hmm.
online games. Obviously Siege is running well, so of course it's going to have some issues at launch. Every online multiplayer game does, but after that, I mean, they kind of have a proven success record that they can keep a live service game going. So I'm excited for this. I hope that it does catch on. I hope that our team, us guys, we could probably end up playing this. Because I mean, honestly, the older I get, the less and less enthusiastic I get about PvP gameplay.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
just it's not that fun to me. Like it just isn't. Like even Elite Dangerous, I've got an OP ship is engineered all the way to the extreme. Like I could go out and gank anybody if I wanted to, but I've never gone player hunting before. Like not once because I just don't find it fun. Like you're like PvP and kind of the DNA of it is like, oh, I'm going to ruin somebody else's day. Like that's
Right.
how I feel about it. Like it literally is, oh, the objective for me is to make this not fun for somebody else because no matter what you say, losing's not fun. And if I hop on and play a PvP game for a hour and I lose every single match in a row,
Oh yeah.
sometimes my
That's a
own
bad
fault.
feeling.
Yeah, sometimes my own fault, sometimes the team's fault, whatever the case. It's just, I'd rather have fun, hop on with some friends, like, hey, let's go do this. And if we lose, hey, we lost together, guys. But I had a
Right.
fun time because I was playing my buddies, which sometimes I don't get that same feeling from PvP. So, all that said, I'm glad that Ubisoft is given, they're expanding their player base. They're being more diverse. Like, hey, we have this awesome PvP, hard, sweaty game. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to go play Siege, and we've got this cool, laid back. I mean, it won't be laid back, it'd be challenging, but here's a game that you can play with your friends and just have fun without having to worry about things like rank and, you know, kill death ratio and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. So I'm definitely still a PvP game. Like Fish and I, we can step into Destiny 2 and just crush the Crucible. Like it's nobody's business. That's kind of what gets us going. But it's I don't know if that translates to a game like Extraction though? Because do you think there's going to be some type of PvP mode where you're like deliberately sabotaging the other team or something, like a
No,
Gambit type situation?
I think it is 100% going to be a PvE only type game. Like, that's what I was saying. I think that they created this, noticing that, like, I know, you guys, you enjoy it, but there's a lot of people who don't
Oh,
give
I
a
get
damn
it.
about PvP at all. So for them, like, and just think of Siege, like, it's a huge success, like, huge successful game, but it is probably intimidating to a lot of people as well. So I think by them branching off, having this PvE only title, like they get those people who have seen Siege and say, "Man, like they've supported the game for 5 years. They're constantly doing updates for it. I
Hmm.
don't like PvP, but I do like PvE. And look, they made this just for me because you think Ubisoft, like they have a wide range of games. They do have that. They've got racing titles with the crew. They've got, I think they don't have any sports games. So that might be like their one kind of weakness.
Right.
But even with their action adventure games, Odyssey, or I'm sorry, Assassin's Creed, it's kind of
Hmm.
like RPG now. You've got Rainbow, or I'm sorry, not Rainbow Six, the Ghost Recon games.
Right.
You've got Far Cry 6. So they really do try to put a little bit of something out there for everybody. I think that's what this came from, was like somebody in
They
their
saw
studio
a
saw the
void.
success of, yeah, somebody saw GTFO and said, man, we could do that,
Yeah, because
and
it's
now
the
it's what
same
they're doing.
operators and everything. So I imagine that there's going to be a lot of asset sharing. So this is just going to be, I don't want to say an easy pass to make a second title using the same assets, but it's definitely goes a far way to help build a second title when you can just reuse the same content. My only wish
It's
was
not
that it
broke, don't
was
fix it.
darker. It was, if it was a darker title. Obviously, I think that the demonstration, which has actually been going on behind us for a while now, the demonstration that they gave us at their presentation was definitely a setup for demo purposes type situation. I don't think it was super indicative of what actual gameplay would look like, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait to see if it pans out to be as good as we hope it does. And after this announcement too, they did kind of show off a new operator, Thunderbird, for Rainbow Six Siege. So they were really driving it home that Siege isn't done. Like we're not giving up Siege to put all our eggs in the Extraction basket. So they're going to support both fully. We're getting a new operator here. I think end of the year is what they said. But then after that, we got their 20th anniversary tease for Ghost Recon, and they did show a little bit of support for what was it? Wildlands? Was that the last one that they came out with in the Ghost
Um,
Recon?
No, Wildlands was the one before that. Honestly, I can't remember what the last one was.
Okay,
Ghost
either way.
Recon
So it's their 20th anniversary, and they're like, "Hey, hang tight, we got something
Breakpoint.
else to show you." Breakpoint. Okay, uh, it's the Ghost Recon 20th anniversary, and they're basically telling us to hang tight while they figure what it is they're gonna plan on sharing with us. And then after that, we got the Assassin's Creed Valhalla expansion news, which this was interesting. I had not made this connection before, but it makes sense. They said, quote, for the first time on an Assassin's Creed title, we'll be supporting the game well into its second year. I never made that connection that after year one, they're just like, all right, bye. Especially even with these last two, the last two games, not including uh, Valhalla,
I
but
don't even feel like
Odyssey and
that's a true
Origin.
statement.
Didn't
I
Origins
honestly don't
have
even.
like year two content?
I don't remember Origins having a long tail, but Odyssey definitely had a pretty long tail. Maybe it wasn't a full like 2 years, but it was definitely a long tail. Like it was, and it wasn't one of those things where they put out little content, like where they didn't put out a lot. Like that game kept
They
going
pull
on forever. Right?
full, yeah, they drop full
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah, I remember the day vividly when I finally beat that, because they finally announced like, "Yep, this is the last one." I was happy because it was like 150 gigabytes on my hard drive, so I
You
was
could just
happy to
wipe
get rid
out.
of it. Yeah, so yeah, that one they got supported for a while. I mean, cool for them to say that they are going to do that. I mean, I've already kind of come to expect that from them. I wasn't a
Hmm.
big fan of Valhalla itself. I didn't even beat it, but I've come to expect from them like that they will always support their games with a lot of content. Like they have not. I can't think of anything they've put out where they haven't put out a shit ton of post-release content at this point.
I think it's hard to at least for me personally, it was hard to understand that that was like a real statement that they were making because you and I, we still come from the era of where we were getting Assassin's Creed games faster than we could freaking finish them back in the beginning. We got like one came out and then two came out at decent intervals. And then we had what Brotherhood came out and then three came out kind of close to Brotherhood. And then it felt like back to back almost every single year, if not closer than that, had a multiple Assassin's Creed titles. Or what was that time? It was in between the transition from PS3, 360, and Xbox One and PS4, where there was an Assassin's Creed title. There's two of them. One was specifically for the old generation, and two was for the or the second one was for the newer generation at the time. And it was two not independent stories, they kind of interwove, but it was like instead of putting two stories on one disc, they split it and they're like, all right, buy the old console game and the new console game. So they were just like back to back to back to back. So it's interesting to see, but it also makes sense that if they're like, oh yeah, for the first time we're supporting this into our second year for this title, like, oh, they had just been coming out so close that it's hard to believe that they didn't support a game for a second year. They just kept on going. So that was just kind of like a weird thing that kind of stood out to me. Are you gonna get the expansions? Did you see what they looked like?
No, because I didn't even beat the original game.
Oh, I thought you didn't beat it because you were like waiting for like quality of life updates, which they touched base on those.
I just didn't enjoy it, honestly.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I'm trying to think if my wife beat it or not.
That's there's only two games in the entire series I did not like, and that was this one and Origins. And and me, like, or for me not like Origins was a bad game because I love like pretty much anything related to Egypt.
Yeah, everything about that game.
It just was not up to snuff.
Yeah. Well, the next thing that they announced was the Far Cry 6 story, not really reveal, but kind of additional information about it, as well as some planned DLCs where you get to play as the prior villains from 3, 4, and 5. And they also teased Blood Dragon from Far Cry 3. I don't know what it was. It kind of looked like it was just shoehorned at the end of it for some reason. Let me see if I can get to it. We're just talking about Rainbow Six a lot. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, so yeah, so we're gonna play as the villains in the DLC for this, which is a very weird situation for a game to not even be out yet. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's these possibly 3 DLCs you're gonna get afterwards. Even though I think it might be framed as just a single expansion. Yeah, so like right here, they're also like, oh, also including Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Did you play Blood Dragon at all?
No.
No,
never played Blood Dragon.
It was like a
I did enjoy 3 though. But
yeah, 3 was fun. Blood Dragon was like what people in the early 90s thought 2010 was going to look like that dystopian future type weird shenanigans. It was okay. I was very confused as to what was going on because I was so used to at the time of getting expansions that were like kind of direct continuations or at least like solid side stories to this, to where Blood Dragon was like its own thing. Like you didn't really need to know anything about what was happening in Far Cry 3 to play Blood Dragon. It was like completely disconnected from the storyline. I think by the end it might have reconnected somehow. Like I don't know. It was a very trippy game in some parts, especially when you get further into it, just like the rest of them are. And I don't know. It was weird that they just kind of like chucked this in at the end, and then in the final promo material, they don't even reference it anymore. It's back to just being the bad guys. Are you gonna get Far Cry 6? I think I am.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I pretty much get every Ubisoft game. I don't always like them all. Like I have been burned a couple of times. Like Watch Dogs,
Hmm.
particularly 2 and 3, both have burned me at this point. But all the Far Cry's I always enjoy,
Oh, I didn't know you
and
played Legion.
yeah,
You didn't like it?
it's not big. It was okay for a little bit. The thing is, like the major kind of gimmick to that one was that you could be any person or you could
Right.
recruit any person, which is really cool. Like the way they went through that. But other than that, like the gameplay itself, like I think Grand Theft Auto is the only person who can consistently do the massive open world stuff very well. A lot of other companies, when they try to do it, the gameplay kind of starts getting repetitive. And if this, again, it was like I was saying earlier about how those things have to balance out the story and the
Right.
gameplay. Like if one of those kind of runs out of gas before the other one, like it might not be enough to keep you pushing. And in that case, the gameplay got repetitive, and I wasn't enjoying the story enough to keep going. So I was like, all right, that's it for me.
Yep.
But that was I got that through the Ubisoft Plus thing, so I only paid like $15 to get
Oh,
probably
okay.
like 75, maybe 75% of the way through it. But Far Cry I'll end up buying. I don't know if this one if they've announced if it's co-op or yet, but usually they are, and me and my brother will play through them. So hopefully this one
I
is
imagine it
co-op.
would be. I think they've all been co-op since 3, right?
Yeah,
I don't remember
they
1 or 2 being co-op, but that was a pretty big deal in 3, I think.
they for at least the last couple have been co-op. And then the thing about the multiplayer, or not the multiplayer, but like this whole play as the villains thing, that's always the thing. It's always just usually cosmetic though. It doesn't have
Right.
many game. Yeah, I feel like if it had story content, they probably would have said something in this,
Oh no,
regarding it. But
it
it's
definitely, yeah, this is story content that they're selling
no, I
here.
mean the season passes, but I meant if the actual villain thing has something to do with story, they would probably kind of reference that.
No, they did. That's what I'm telling you. Like
This is all story
this
stuff.
man right here tells us that we're going to play as the villains from 3, 4, and 6, or 3, 4, and 5.
Yes, but is it going to be new content? No, it's going
Oh
to be
no.
just
Well,
cosmetic.
what do you mean by new content though? Like we're playing
Like it's
inside the
not going to
heads of these
be.
people.
I don't think so because they've always had the villains in the past games. Like the other game had villains in it, and it was always just a skin. I feel like if it was actual story content, they would say, "Hey," and they're going to be coming with their own story content. They're like, "Hey, pre-order and get these, these costumes." Is what I feel like being
No,
able to that you can play as these guys.
this is all new scenery to me.
We'll see.
Like these, well, I don't know. I think that's what they're getting at though, is you're actively playing as them in their own like not rise, but like you're going through their mind at the time of the events as they unfolded in their own titles.
Hey, if that's what it is, that would be cool.
I think it'd be cool.
Who knows?
Let's
Who
see.
knows?
So then the last two kind of big announcements were the Mario and Rabbids game is getting a second one subtitled Spark of Hope in 2022. I never played the first one. It looked fun. It was like a tactics based Mario game slash also Rabbids like from Rayman. And it looked fun. I never got around to playing it. I think it's still full price on the Switch, which big surprise. It's a Nintendo game. Um, did you play the first one at all? No, I don't.
No.
I don't think I
And the
know
sooner we
anyone.
could.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
I don't think anyone that we know actively played this one. I wouldn't mind giving it a chance though. I love a good Mario game, and a tactics game is even more in my wheelhouse. The last thing, uh, seemed to be blowing up a lot on the internet, but I do not know why. It's an Avatar, like the movie from 2000 whenever, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, that's slated for a 2022 release. I mean, sure, it looks great, but I have a hot take on the Avatar movie. The only reason why it did so well is because it was a graphical masterpiece, especially at the time. I mean, even on like 4K today, it still looks amazing. But as a narrative, like it's weak. Like it's such a paper thin story. For people to have just fallen in love with it. I mean, yeah, it's decent, but I'm not going to Disney World, Magic Kingdom for the new Avatar ride either. So I don't know. Maybe it's just not for me. What's your take on this?
I'm bored even talking about it.
Yeah,
I
see,
honestly, I don't
exactly.
care.
It's like 8 years
Not a
too
single
late.
iota.
Why?
I think there even was an Avatar game. I just,
Yeah, and it probably came out on the PS2. Like, why are we why are we talking about this game in 2021? It makes no sense. Well, I take that back. I know exactly why. It's because it was announced that there's like contracts out there all the way up to like Avatar 5 or something. So I don't know. It's probably just a quick cash in deal. This would have been one of those games like as a kid growing up, I would have been at the Blockbuster like, oh yeah, cool, let's get this, and then the next day I'm begging my mom to bring me back so I can return it because I don't care to play it anymore.
yeah, I mean, it looks okay. I will wait to hear from others.
I'm not even gonna wait to hear from others on this one. It's gonna be a pass. Let's see. So then after that, we have the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, which is the one that I liked the most out of the last couple of days worth of announcements. So quickly going through, not quickly, but to go through
quickly.
these. Yes, quickly, but you know, still with some content.
Oh
So,
my god, there's so many boring games on this list.
Well, yeah, that's why I
Oh my
said
god.
kind of quickly. So, Starfield, we have an engine-based cinematic that's slated for November 11th.
Ooh.
I'm not sold on Starfield yet, and I don't think you are either, to be completely honest.
What is there to be sold on? They haven't shown a damn thing.
It's a
There's nothing to be
Bethesda
sold on.
title. Yeah, exactly. Then we got Stalker 2, which I actually kind of wanted to go. I'd never heard of the Stalker series until this announcement. And it why are you highlighting stuff on this list, Steve?
Because I'm Googling this lame ass game that you're excited about.
So, let's see here. I can show you this clip right here for it. Oh no, that's loud. Why? There we go. So like this dude,
remember this original
this
title.
dude right here shows up in the trailer. I'm like, oh no, I'm not about this game anymore. Like he just like straight up appears right in front of you. Like I did not expect it to be some type of like Dead Space type title. So then after that, we got what we both suspected was going to be happening was an expansion for Sea of Thieves. This one is actually kind of a big deal. I'm not going to play Sea of Thieves because it's just not my kind of game, but it's a big deal because it's A Pirate's Life is the subtitle, and it's a direct connection to the Pirates of the Caribbean, meaning that they are working with Disney. Like that's a big deal in the gaming sphere when you can be working with such a large IP group, because if you do it right, they're going to just keep handing them to you. Like if Sea of Thieves works out with Pirates of the Caribbean, which honestly I don't know if it is or not, but at least from a production stance, if it works out, like there's a solid chance that Disney will lean on the Xbox studios and now possibly Bethesda studios for more Disney-like content. That's slated for June 22nd of this year. It's included with Game Pass if you have that, console exclusive, absolutely. We also, after that, got more gameplay for Battlefield 2042. We've already shared our feelings on Battlefield 2042. We're about it. We love it. We're both gonna buy it. I did, just whenever I was looking this up, because I was kind of confused about the ending card for Battlefield 2042 that they had. And you're highlighting things so frequently, Steve. What are you doing? Get out of here. They're highlighting, see, now you have me talking about highlighting. So the end card for the Battlefield 2042 like trailer, I guess, during the Xbox show was kind of a little weird. So I did a little bit of research, and it brought me to the PlayStation Store on their website for the game, and they're only getting 99 player count online compared to what Xbox is getting, and I believe PC is getting, because I haven't seen anything to dispute it. 128 player matches. So this is a solid example of where a main, AAA title is already starting to sway. Well, I mean, I won't say already starting to sway, because DICE has been known to work heavily with Xbox, but still, like, it's a pretty big leap for them to go, hey, this is optimized for Series S and X, and also on PlayStation 5 you can only play with 99 people. I don't know, it was a weird take, and it kind of felt weird at the time. I don't know, but I mean, do you think we'll ever get crossplay because of this? Like, that was my main concern, is if crossplay is going to be coming to this game, will we gimp the Xbox, or will the PlayStation 5 get brought up to the 128 player count?
Good question. I have no idea. Honestly, I know one thing that we did recently get revealed through, I can't remember what game it was, but it might have even been through the Epic lawsuit, but they did reveal that Sony charges, I want to say, I know it's at least a few $100,000 for you to open a game up for multi-platform crossplay.
It's like a
So it is up
30% of
to,
sales, yeah.
yeah, so it is up to the developer. It seems like EA has deep pockets, and I think they would be smart enough to do crossplay, but I can't think of any EA title currently that has it. Actually, I think Star Wars Squadrons does. I want to say that
I think it
that
does.
might be that's probably the only one I could think of right now. But I mean, even Ubisoft announced with the Extraction that that was going to be a day one crossplay title. So I think companies are starting to understand, like, the more people you have playing a game
Right.
is really what matters. That'll keep it alive longer. I just personally don't know about this with EA and Battlefield, what their plans would be. I haven't even looked to see if any of their other games are for crossplay.
Yeah, and
But I mean,
also,
Call of Duty is, right. Call of Duty Warzone. So I mean, if they wanted to take a page from
I
their
don't
competitor, they should.
I don't think it's crossplay from system environments. I think it's only
Warzone is crossplay.
PC. It's full
Yeah,
crossplay.
yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
played Warzone with Xbox and PlayStation folks before.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All in the same lobby, like Xbox and PS
hmm
people. Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that, but that's pretty interesting. Um,
Yeah, they were one of the first to do it.
yeah, because what makes it interesting is that as part of those documents that were revealed is, like, it's not just a simple, hey Sony, we're doing this, turn on the APIs and just bill us. There's still like a huge approval process for the whole thing. Borderlands 3 is going through that right now, where they're literally pushing out an update for crossplay across all of their systems. PC, Steam and Epic games, I think, have always had it anyways. But Steam and Epic on PC, Xbox One and Series, and then the Switch as well, are all getting crossplay together. And they have come out and said, hey, listen, we would have loved to have brought PlayStation into this fold, but they're not letting us. So, it's not just all right, we're doing this, send us the bill, or take it out of the money that you owe us, because that's normally how it works. I mean, it's still a dumb process that Sony is still being very restrictive over things that aren't even their creative control. Like, I don't know, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I would understand if as a company they didn't agree with it, that they would just like keep it to their titles. But it's just like you're losing out on money, because people are gonna try to play with their friends, and if they can't get their friends over to PlayStation, they're just gonna, hey mom, can you pick me up, or mom or dad, can you pick me up a Series S for my birthday or something, a cheap option. And that's gonna be good enough for them to go and play with their buddies on a different environment, where Sony is now no longer getting anything out of the situation. So I don't know. That's my little blurb on Sony's restrictive uses. The next thing that they announced was Fallout 76 Steel Rain, still free with Game Pass that you can get in there. I'm still not a fan of the Fallout 1 annual subscription thing. I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way. But it is a free expansion, and they also announced that there's going to be another one called Expeditions The Pit. The first being set for July 7th, and the next for just sometime next year. They didn't give an actual date for that one. The next announcement was Hades. Did you ever play that one, Steve? Hades? Did you like it?
I did.
I
It
think
was
I'm
pretty
going to
good.
pick it up. I've seen a couple people play it recently, and it's coming to Game Pass on August 13th. So I was planning on picking it up before then, but now I might wait because I've waited so long anyways, and I do have Game Pass. Um, big reveal though was Halo Infinite. They did a re-reveal because last year it was kind of the laughing stock for how graphically muted it was. This year they opened up on glorious sceneries. There was a ton of. Let me see if I can get in here. Yep. Uh, a ton of stronger details in here. Did you see this actual reveal, Steve?
I didn't watch it. No,
No. How could you? It was so
it's
good. How
Halo.
could you
I
not?
mean,
Bro, it's Halo. Absolutely, I'm playing it. What are
yeah.
you
I
talking
mean,
about?
you know, if yeah, exactly. I'm gonna play it, but also I know it's gonna be the same old Halo. Like it. I'm sorry. I know I'm coming out very negative this episode, but so much of the stuff is just so recycled, just BS, and like it. I can't get excited about Halo. Like, there's nothing at all that they showed in this gameplay other than, oh wow, it's Halo. Okay, cool. I'm not fucking 18 anymore. I'm not. I'm not.
I'm not,
Like
and you
I'm
can't
good.
make me.
I'm not 18 anymore. Like you're gonna have to do a little better than that. Like they, and again, just not being a PvP person either. Like
So they announced that the part of this announcement was that the campaign and the multiplayer are going to be split. Multiplayer will be free to play. The campaign will be included in Game Pass, or you can buy it, whatever. And then multiplayer is, of course, going to be included with it because it's free. The kind of the big deal for me was whenever they showed the Hayabusa armor at the end of this reveal, it kind of was like a sign of like, hey, we get it. Our player base is not really about the crazy game modes and things like that. Like they want deathmatch, they want capture the flag, and they want to do it in a strategic manner, not with like 18 million different loadouts that they can do. That they want an even playing field to battle on, and I think that's probably more what direction they're looking for. At least that was my take. That's just my take. There was nothing to really demonstrate that, one for one, but it was something that at least I know I'm going to get, or well, I guess it's with Game Pass, so of course I am. But I know that I'm going to play the campaign because it's Master Chief, and the campaign story seems to be a little bit interesting. But of course, I'm going to play multiplayer as well because it's with the game. So why not? So after that was Diablo 2 Resurrected, which I know you're not a fan of. I'll be picking that up because I love Diablo 2. It was my first top-down RPG, and I loved it. Let's see. Atomic Heart, which we had brought up, and it was actually on my radar for several episodes ago. I think it was like the third or fourth one. It still looks good. Still doesn't have a release date, so we know nothing still. Grounded has a Shroom and Doom update where Tom the Greek in the chat and we used to play the base game, which is still in development. In PC, it would be early access. I don't know what it's called on Xbox. Probably still early access. But it's also part of Game Pass. That's going to be coming out June 30th. It has spiders, Steve. It's scary as hell. I'm not afraid of spiders in real life. Like I have no problem, scurrying one away or whatever. But the spiders in this game, for some reason, just activate a fear response that I didn't know existed. And it's a cartoony ass game. Like there's no reason why you should be afraid of spiders in this game. But it's enough that they have built in an arachnophobia mode, and they even tease it in the update and everything, where it's basically just two floaty orbs. Like there's nothing spider about it, just two floaty orbs. So then after Grounded, if Thomas and I went back to Grounded, would you play that, Steve? Would you give that a good attempt? I know it's not really your wheelhouse of a game.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. No.
I know you're not. That's why I'm asking you.
No, I'm not gonna fucking play that. No, I mean, honestly, like, we talked about Sea of Thieves earlier. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably my cutoff for what. Like, Grounded,
Really?
it looks cool.
Sea
Like
of
I
Thieves looks
can
way more child targeted than
the
Grounded
art
does.
style looks the art style looks like that, but the actual gameplay mechanics are pretty in depth. Like you have to look away from the art style, but everything else you're doing, like repairing the ship and anchoring down, and actually like the sailing is real life sailing. Like it
Yeah,
literally like oh you have the real sail physics and all that kind of stuff, and they have their own little raids and things. I mean, Grounded, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like for me at all.
that
Too
nope.
much of what I saw was or survival based, which I'm not. Just not a fan of that stuff. It drives me absolutely insane.
See, I was concerned that it was going to be more survival based as well, but all this on normal difficulty, all the survival elements, they're just like if you play to them, you get like stat bonuses kind of. You can run farther. There's nothing like you can starve. Well, you can't starve. But for the most part, you can like not drink or eat, and you're still gonna get through the game just fine. A little bit slower, but it's not going to be like, oh, you have no food, so you can't build this thing or nothing like that. So after that, Age of Empires 4 was announced. That's going to be a PC exclusive. I think that was more of a title to just kind of get the whole, hey, Game Pass is also on PC type crowd going. Um, then they announced the Outer Worlds 2. Literally, they had nothing but the title. It was part of the commercial that only, or the announcement that they only had a title that they were working on Outer Worlds 2. I played Outer Worlds 1 and I enjoyed it, but I also found it a little lacking in content a little bit, but like I still had fun. Like it felt like it was something I could go into. I could attack any situation in any manner that I wanted to, uh, while still getting that push through effect that you would get from like a more linear story. I don't know. Did you play Outer Worlds 1?
I didn't, but I was very involved with like the pre-release type. Like I watched all the podcasts and that kind of stuff because I was again I'm a sci-fi fan
Mm-hmm.
and an RPG fan, so I was pretty excited about it. And it's kind of funny, interesting that you brought up the whole lack of content thing. That's what actually kept me from not playing that ultimately. There's an interview that he had done, like one of the game directors, and I forgot what the ending time ended up being, but it's somewhere like 12 hours. And
Yeah.
the person who was interviewing him was complaining about that. They're like, hey, this is it wasn't a full price game. I think it was like $10 less than full price, but they were like, hey,
Yeah.
this is you're promoting this as a large, budget RPG game, but it's only about 12 hours, and he was like, yeah, the whole thing about that is we didn't go for content for the single playthrough. Like their whole thing was they wanted people to play through it multiple
Yes.
times. And for me, I'm not like you don't know me, but well you do know me, but you don't know
I
this
know
part
you.
about me. I like there's things I don't do. I don't rewatch movies a lot and I
Mm-hmm.
don't replay games a lot. Like I'll probably for games I'll replay maybe once. For movies, it has to be something like that I'm absolutely in love with, like usually for like a nostalgia reason, or I'm showing somebody else it for the first time
Right.
type thing. But I really don't rewatch movies and I don't rewatch or replay games. So for them to be like, oh yeah, I know you're paying $50 for this for 10 hours, which still, dollar per hour is there, but I don't want to play something where you say, "Oh, nah, we didn't put a lot of content in it this first time." But if you play through it a few times, there's a lot of different dialogue options, and I'm sure some story beats play differently and things like that. But I just didn't. At the end of the day, a lot of those games you still hit a lot of the same story stuff, and then it doesn't become as fun, no matter how often you try it. Like Mass Effect, my favorite, probably definitely my favorite series of all time, up there, my favorite games of all time. I told you a couple episodes ago, I won't
Yeah.
replay this new one with remaster, even though I love that series to death. I won't replay it because there's nothing new in it for me. Like, I had a perfect experience. I don't want to go back through and try to see what other new stuff is in it. I'll keep that in my mind. This is what happened.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm the exact same way with movies. Like it takes a very strong reason to get me to watch a movie a second time. And games, for the most part, I would say that with the majority of the games that I play, I don't go back to them ever again. Like I'll enjoy them mentally, but even on some titles that I really thoroughly enjoy that I try to go back to, I'll play like the first 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes of it, and in my mind I've already played the rest of the game out. So I'm like, "All right, cool, I'm done.
Yeah.
Bye." Like I don't
Yeah.
need to experience it again. I will say though that for the Outer Worlds, the replayability I feel like was there in the sense that it really is based off of how you approach different problems based off of your player type. Like if you want to do things stealthily, you can play the entire game stealthily and then come back a second time and just like blast everybody with rockets and it feel like a completely different game. Well, I won't say completely different game, but it feels like a pretty different game. I don't know. I feel like they balanced it pretty well. I would like to see more content in the second one and more I don't know, results of your decisions, I guess is a way of putting it. More, yeah, I don't know. More ways to accidentally screw up and you not realize it. You're like, oh, I should have done, you know, X, Y, and Z to save the dog, you know, things like that. After that, though, pretty big announcement for you, Steve. Microsoft Flight Simulator's coming to Xbox. How do you feel about that?
Meh.
Meh.
I mean, it's cool. Like one thing that I really like about the announcement was they announced that there will be no discernible difference between the console and the PC version. Same depth, same graphics, everything, which is why it is not releasing for Xbox One. It's only for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series X.
Yep.
On the PC side of things, like our community is pretty happy about it because we assume that with the Xbox release will also come an upgrade for the PC to be DX12 compatible, just because most Xbox software runs off of DX12. So,
Right.
which will help us, without being overly technical. When you're on DX11, the most software is only going to make use of 4 of your cores at max, whereas with DX12, it can make use of all your cores. So right now, like me with my i9 9900K, I get a message in game that says, "Oh, you're limited by your CPU." No, I'm not. I just have more cores than you can do anything with.
Right.
I actually last night is funny. I overclocked it, and performance is night and day now. But anyway, where I was going with that, the Xbox release I'm happy for. It is a fantastic title. I think that it is something, especially Game Pass, like it's perfect for that. It's one of those things that you have people over for Thanksgiving. The whole family's there. Little Johnny pulls out his Xbox, like, "Oh yeah, I played this a couple of times. I can fly over our house and show you our house." Or,
Right.
"Grandpa, where did you and Grandma live?" "Oh, but all that kind of shit. So, it is, yeah, that was my
Or
whole
just set
rant.
your autopilot and let it play in the background.
Yeah. So it is a excellent title. Like I love the sim. I know I have at least 600 real flying hours in it, and then like my Steam time says 1,000 hours or something, which is a lot of customizing and developing type stuff. But the Xbox release is big for our company. Our development company. It doesn't really change anything for us right now because we will not be releasing anything on the marketplace for a while, which is the only place that the Xbox
Right.
games will be able to get stuff. But it's cool, I think, just to see that player base increase, which I'm sure is going to happen. And yeah, it's a cool thing. I think obviously I'm a big fan of Xbox, and I think that they're doing a lot of cool stuff, and this is another example of that.
Yep. And then next up that they wrapped up with was Forza Horizon 5, which I called incorrectly because I thought for sure we were going to get a motorsport before we got another Horizon title. But it looks great. I have not played a Horizon title in so long. I think like since the second one.
You're missing out.
I know I am. I'm just racing games. I used to be so about them, and then I don't know what happened. I really don't. I just like gave up on them around the Xbox One era and just stopped completely. After that, we'll run through quickly the next set because it's not a ton of announcements that really too many care about. So Square Enix did their thing where they announced a Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy title for October 26th of this year. It looked kind of, I don't know, uncanny. Really kind of is the word that comes to mind for that game. It looked like they were trying to take all of the attitude and everything that has been kind of demonstrated in the movies, but with the vibes and looks of the comic book. It was like a weird blend. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. But then they also announced a content roadmap for Marvel's Avengers, which you said that you went back to, right? And that was it played better than launch.
Yeah, performance wise is better. Content wise, I mean, I kind of like what they're doing, but it's so far gone now. Like it's kind of sad, honestly. Like I don't know if you ever played the old what were they called, Marvel versus
Ultimate
Cap,
Alliance.
or yeah, like those games. Like me and my friends used to play those all the time, like couch co-op. All of us just playing in the room together. And I do think that there is a world where this Avengers game could have launched a lot more successfully. Like the
Mm-hmm.
content wasn't terrible. The problem with it is just how disjointed it was. Like some of the stuff you could play with co-op, some of the stuff you couldn't. Like they really needed something more like Destiny's way of things where you can do like maybe there's that open-end thing you do by yourself, but then everything
Right.
from that point on is you can play with other people. Like
Right.
they can jump in at any time. Like I was playing one night and Ryan just hopped in. I was like, oh hey, I hadn't played with him in forever, but just that ability, we didn't have to go through this whole setup process of oh man, let's all get on and we're all going to synchronize our start mission time to this and everything. Like someone could just jump in at any point, and Avengers didn't have that originally. I think that it got unfairly judged. Like the graphical stuff, from that original reveal was pretty bad, but they fixed a lot of that by the time it
Right.
released to the point where I really didn't have any complaints about the character models or anything from the game. The story was actually pretty damn good. The gameplay was good. It was a one and done experience though after you finished it. Like all of the stuff they had after that, like activity wise, which in the equivalent for Destiny would be like going out and doing strikes, like
Right.
they just weren't fun with other players because there wasn't anything, which
To
is kind of, I
get
mean,
from it.
honestly, yeah, which is a little bit how I feel with Destiny 2 right now. Like I'm all about beating the story content, but after that, I don't want to grind. I don't want to grind to try to max my level out or anything like that. I just want to experience the story, which is how I played Avengers. I experienced the story and then I was done. And then the add-on content that they've done, like all this has new story content with it, but I
Right.
just haven't wanted to. It hasn't got me enough to go back, which I do have the season pass. So maybe probably by the time that Black Panther one comes out, maybe I'll go back and check it out then. They have, I guess, I know that they've done the Hawkeye, his daughter, and I guess Black Panther's coming. So by then,
Yep.
I'll probably have a good 10 hours of content I could probably go through. So, but yeah, it wasn't a bad game though. I could recommend it to people. I just wouldn't recommend it at the full price if you really
Right.
were caring about the multiplayer stuff. I would say, yeah, you're probably like the single player, but you're not really going to stick around for the multiplayer.
True. Which is a shame because like the Avengers Ultimate Alliance stuff was like heavily about the multiplayer aspect. So that's kind of weird that they just completely derailed that.
Yeah,
Uh Next up was Hitman Sniper: The Shadows. I did not really care much for that one. June 13th is when we can expect that. You're not even playing as a normal what is it, Agent 47, I think, the guy that you play in the normal Hitman series.
yeah.
You're not even playing as him. You're just playing as, I think they said 46 or something. But then it showed like 800 different people on a hill that were sniping. It looked like a cash grab. Um, Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier. Speaking of cash grabs, it is an iOS and Android, so mobile only battle royale title. Seemed really weird. Cash grab is the only word that comes to mind for that one. Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, though, seemed a little bit more in my wheelhouse. It's being helped, or the develop. Yeah, I can't talk anymore. It's being developed by Team Ninja, who's responsible for Ninja Gaiden and Neo, and it looks kind of good. I don't trust the trailer for it though, because the man says the word chaos at least 800 times in 60 seconds. Like it's just all over the place. But the combat looked great. Oh yeah, Squid Twitch. Yeah, Final Fantasy has never done a cash grab ever. Yeah, I feel like every other game is a cash grab sometimes. Uh, so it's done by the Ninja Gaiden and Neo people. The combat looked great. Uh, it was kind of reminiscent of Neo, I would say, like the animations and everything, but it had that action packedness that Ninja Gaiden had. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. That was all for Square Enix Presents. We just wrapped up Capcom before we started the show, and spoiler alert, it sucked. They announced that Resident Evil Verse, which is their online multiplayer, is going to be coming out soon. I didn't catch the date for it, but it's included if you have Resident Evil Village. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's part of that. They did announce a extra DLC, but they didn't give any info about the DLC for Village. They're just like, hey, we heard that you like our game. We're working on an expansion. Thanks. And that was the end of it. They also showed off Monster Hunter Stories 2, which is not a main Monster Hunter Stories or Monster Hunter title. You're less about hunting monsters and more about befriending them. It was a weird take. Definitely more targeted towards like the kid audience, I would say. It was that very like childish anime style look to it. That's gonna be July 9th. And then they also announced a prequel that we never saw in the US for the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series. I wasn't a fan of those, but I know that it's a very beloved series. So at least we're getting a release over here for one. That's all for the shows. Just a reminder, Sony does not do E3 anymore. So that's why you might not have heard us talk a ton about PlayStation today, except for a couple of riffs that we gave it. Sony does their own thing through events called State of Plays. They announce them randomly anytime they have to show something. Like I think 2 weeks ago, they showed off the new expansion for Horizon Zero Dawn. And it's really just game, like a specific game focused one. So we won't have anything about them. EA Play Live isn't happening until July 22nd, which is after next week's episode. And then the Nintendo event isn't taking place until tomorrow at noon. So we'll have that stuff later. Let's see. Oh, and then the Steam Next Fest is June 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Do you think they're going to announce the hardware that was rumored at this? Or is that still, or do you think it's still in development at all?
They said by holiday season, so I think we'll see it there.
We'll see it. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it's about time.
Yep.
Because they, most companies want to have their stuff out before Black Friday, whenever it comes to something for the holiday season. So you think November, we're basically already in July at this point. So August, September, October. You probably like.
Well, Tokyo Game Show is in September.
Yeah, so I would still say they're probably going to come out with this soon. Honestly, I don't think that they would even. I don't know if they would even be targeting Japan as a huge audience for this. To be honest,
that's true.
There is. I mean, they do have a big MOBA audience over there, so who knows? That'd be interesting. But I would think just naturally, I kind of feel like they're going to probably be targeting, North America first, and then maybe they have some stuff around the world. But I feel like North America would be your.
When is Gamescom? Is that
Gamescom is overseas as well.
That's in Germany, yeah. But what is that in the end of the year or the beginning of the year? Did we already pass it?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So if you want, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at this guy Archie. Steve, which one do you want them to follow?
At Pharaoh Steve is fine.
At Pharaoh Steve. Okay, and we'll be tweeting out our reactions to things that we hear if it interests us. If you see nothing on Twitter from us about anything, just know that you didn't miss out much. Let's see here. That's it for this episode. We ran kind of long because there was a lot of stuff to do, so we're not doing a radar or Q&A again this week, and we're not going to do 20 questions either. So that's it. Do you want to talk about what you've been playing, Steve? I know you've been working really hard at the flight sim, your helicopter stuff projects.
Not really. I mean, I got a little bit further in Resident Evil Village yesterday, and I'm just gonna be honest. I'm having that might be the game I'm having the hardest time getting through in my entirety of my life, to be honest. Because I'm usually a huge fan of the series, and the story is interesting. Like earlier, I was talking about like that balance of one of them has to be kind of pulling you along. The story is good, but the gameplay is so damn boring, man. Like it took me a week to get through a level in the game when I looked up a guide to see there's a website called Time to Beat,
right,
or How Long to Beat, something like that. And I always go in there just to see like how long a game is going to be, because I have a backlog of probably 100 games at all times. So I'll say, okay, what can I beat in between this and this next thing that I know that I want to play? And Resident Evil, they said it should be like 12 hours. Well, it's taken me like 3 weeks just to get through what a part that's like 2 hours into the game. It is not. I don't know. People are saying this one was better than the last one, but I don't see how. Like I love the last game was great. Like I had fun throughout the whole thing. The story was very engaging. The gameplay was pretty good. This one, like the puzzles are just stupid sometimes. Like it's like,
Yeah.
and not stupid like in terms of, oh man, this was challenging. Just like, why does this puzzle even exist? Who would make a house where to get through a door where I could clearly see there's a window here that I could just climb through or break?
Right.
Why do I have to go like just they want you to suspend so much logic in these games and I feel like they've pushed so much else ahead in that series, like in terms of the visual quality, the storytelling, most of the gameplay, like going from the jump scare shit to going to more of the psychological type stuff now, switching the camera over to first person. Like they've made so many advancements. I don't understand why they left that whole thing in with the puzzles.
Yeah.
And if they did leave them in, why aren't they good? Like you can clearly play Last of Us, Last of Us 2, similar premise, zombies, action adventure game, puzzles to get through shit. But the puzzles in that game all make sense. It's like, oh, this is something that happened environmentally here, and the only way for me
Hmm.
to get through this is to do this. Switch over to Resident Evil, and like I said, here's windows in front of this door, or here's a door, here's windows to the side. Oh man, it looks like I've got to go find these pieces to put the statue back
See, it's
together to
interesting you
make the
say that because
door
I feel
open.
like the remakes did not suffer from that, and they were true remakes. Like, yeah, the map or the area that you're in and the story that's being told is roughly the same as the originals, but it's still a three-dimensional remake, and I felt like they did the puzzles pretty well in those remakes. But I completely agree with you. I have not played Village because I've seen it played enough online through other YouTubers and Twitch streamers that I know that the puzzles would frustrate me, not because they're hard puzzles, just because they're annoying. As
Yeah,
annoying as a puzzle could get, it's annoying. Like we've
yeah,
evolved past the whole like, oh, there's a padlock on this gate. I wonder how I get through. I don't know. I have a pistol. Let me just fucking shoot it off the chain. I mean, 007 GoldenEye for the N64 fixed that problem. We shouldn't have that
yeah.
anymore today.
Yeah.
Uh,
You brought up a good point though. So you said like how the games back then the puzzles weren't as infuriating. I think what has happened is because the space is so much larger now. Like that's my
right,
biggest frustration with this now is like there's not been a single puzzle I've come to and been like, oh man, I don't know how to resolve this. Like it's all been like every time I come to one, I'm like, fuck, here goes another
right,
fetch quest because that's all it is. Is go backtrack to this place, find these things, bring it back here. Like that's all they end up being. There's a couple of them in there where they were kind of clever, and those I like. Like, oh, there's one where there was a poem, and the poem read out some stuff, and the poem, you have these statues, and it was like, oh, just not reenact the poem, but reenact what the purpose of what the poem was trying to say.
right,
That one was cool, but this shit where it's like, oh man, go back to this room, pull up your map, find that room that's way back there. Of course, there's gonna be zombies and shit in between that are just meant
mm-hmm,
to slow you down. Like they're artificially lengthening the game because without these puzzles that take an hour or whatever to get through because of the backtracking, this game would probably be like 5 or 6 hours long, which
right,
is exactly how long 2 and 3 were the remakes. They were both like
right,
5 to 6 hours to get through. So, and I don't have a problem with that. Like I understand this issue that they have. Like you want to make this thing worth $60, but I think there's a better way to do it. Like it's not just put puzzles in to artificially lengthen the time that you have to spend playing it. Like
right.
and I think that's what happened with 3, like, we were texting about that earlier, the resistance mode that shipped with it, they're like, "Man, 3's even shorter than 2. We can't ship this 5-hour game for $60. What can we do?" And they're like, "Toss in a multiplayer mode." Do something similar here, like,
Yeah, just
maybe
shoehorn
maybe
something in.
yeah, I don't wanna even say shoehorn, but figure out something to give me more gameplay, not just puzzles, but I'm honestly I don't know if I'm gonna finish this one. I really don't think I
See,
will,
one
because
thing I'm
I
a little upset about is that they didn't go back to the whole idea of like, cool, you can replay the game as and see the exact same events unfold as a different character. Like
yeah, they moved
they
far
could have
away from that.
easily have done that. But they went away from it, and I don't know why. Like it could have been just that easy to almost double the gameplay time if you had taken the exact same assets, chucked in a new character, and said, all right, cool, we're going to set the puzzles up this way in a non annoying fashion. so that this person has to interact with the entire environment this way.
Yeah. But yeah, but other than that, playing Flight Sim, playing Elite, that's pretty much it on that I've been playing these days. How about you?
I tried a little bit of Elite. As we talked earlier, let me go back to this other thing. As I texted you earlier, I've been having some weird like technical issues with my rig here, so I'm probably going to be focusing more on that this week as well, just to kind of hammer it out. I don't know. There's a ghost living in my computer. That's the only explanation I got at this point. But yeah, I played a lot of Elite Dangerous for the new patch that came out. A lot of that tested out. Didn't have too many problems with it. It was a good time. Was able to knock down a ton of quests, more than I could handle actually. Because I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna grab them all because they're all gonna fail from me anyways, and they didn't. So I was like, oh no, how do I resolve these like 20 quests in this amount of time? So it's fun. Tried playing Borderlands. Had some issues too with that this last weekend or this past weekend, and I don't know. I might just end up rebuilding this PC as a whole if that's what it turns into. But that's gonna be my week. You got anything else you want to plug, Steve? It's been a long episode. This one has.
Nothing here on my end, brother.
Yep, nothing on this end. All right, everybody. We appreciate you being here. Love you. Be safe. We'll see you here next Monday. If you came in late, the recording will go up on YouTube tomorrow by 5, probably earlier. I'm going to try and make them come out earlier if I can, starting with this one. So appreciate you all. Have a great week.